The Blackwood mansion in Hampton Hills glowed in the June twilight. Strategically placed lights highlighted the neoclassical architecture and immaculately manicured gardens, where New York's elite gathered to celebrate the engagement of Vanessa Clayton and Bradley Thompson. Bradley, 35, was the darling of Wall Street. As founder of Thompson Investments, he had built a financial empire based on his ability to predict market trends and his relentless charisma. Tall, always impeccably dressed in tailored Italian suits, he navigated the crowd with the confidence of someone always destined for that privileged world. "Bradley, dear, come meet the Harringtons," Vanessa called, stunning in her designer gown, genuine pearls adorning her neck. "They just returned from South Africa." The businessman smiled, placing a kiss on the bride's cheek before accepting another glass of champagne from the tray offered by a young, dark-skinned waiter. Bradley barely glanced at the server as he took the drink. "Richard, Elizabeth, a pleasure to finally meet you," he greeted the couple with measured enthusiasm. "Vanessa mentioned your diamond ventures." The conversation flowed with practiced ease, centering on investments, properties on Martha's Vineyard, and plans for the upcoming charity golf tournament. Bradley, in his element, gesticulated animatedly, accidentally spilling some of his champagne on the immaculate white jacket of a passing young waiter. "My God!" exclaimed Elizabeth Harrington, noticing the incident. Bradley turned, instant irritation replacing his social smile as he saw the stain on the waiter's uniform. "Why were you so close?" he snapped unapologetically. "Look what you did. You almost ruined my Italian suit." The young waiter, who appeared to be in his 30s, remained composed. "I apologize, sir. Can I help you with—" "Do you have any idea how much this suit costs?" Bradley interrupted, raising his voice enough to draw stares. "More than you probably make in a month serving champagne." An uncomfortable silence descended upon the small group. The waiter remained calm, dignity evident in his bearing. "Bradley," Vanessa tried to intervene, visibly embarrassed. "One moment, dear." Bradley held up his hand, interrupting her, pointing to a few drops of champagne on the marble floor. "Wipe that up. Now." The waiter looked Bradley directly in the eye, an unreadable expression crossing his face. For a moment, he looked like he might answer. Instead, he simply nodded. "Immediately, sir." As the waiter walked away to get a cloth, Bradley returned to the conversation as if nothing had happened. He didn't notice the disapproving look exchanged between the Harringtons, nor did he notice how Vanessa's smile had stiffened. Across the room, an elegant, middle-aged woman in an elaborate African turban watched the scene intently. Adelia Okonkwo, Vanessa's aunt and the respected matriarch of the Clayton family, narrowed her eyes before discreetly gesturing to the humiliated waiter. The young man approached respectfully. "It's okay, Malik," she murmured softly. "Remember the purpose." Malik Clayton, Vanessa's brother and CEO of Clayton Global Investments, one of the largest investment funds focused on sustainable development in Africa and Asia, nodded almost imperceptibly. "I've never doubted my suspicions about him," he replied quietly. "But for Vanessa's sake, I need to be sure." As he returned with a rag to clean the floor at Bradley Thompson's feet, the billionaire disguised as a waiter reflected that tonight had revealed exactly what he needed to know about the man who planned to marry his sister. Malik Clayton adjusted the tie on his waiter's uniform in the makeshift locker room, studying his reflection in the mirror. Despite the simple disguise, there was something in his posture that suggested authority, a trait difficult to completely hide. "The plan still seems excessive to me," commented Marcus, his head of security and childhood friend, leaning against the wall. "You could just investigate it like any normal person would." Malik smiled. "And what fun would that be? Besides, papers and records don't reveal a man's true character." The Clayton family was no ordinary family. Descendants of Nigerian immigrants who arrived in the United States in the 1950s, they had built a global empire while maintaining strong connections to their African roots. Joseph Clayton, Malik and Vanessa's father, started with a small shop in Harlem and built the business into an international powerhouse before his death 3 years ago. While Vanessa chose a life in New York, Malik had spent the last 10 years traveling between the United States, Europe, and Africa, expanding the family business with a focus on sustainable investments and community development. His business philosophy, heavily influenced by the teachings of his grandfather, a respected Igbo elder, prioritized honor and responsibility over immediate profit. "Your sister won't be happy when she finds out," Marcus warned. "She'll thank me eventually," Malik replied, his thoughts returning to the incident with Bradley. "I've seen enough tonight. The man isn't worthy of her. And now? Now we watch and let him reveal more of himself. Malik checked his watch. I must return. There are royal servants there who do not deserve to be burdened by my absence. The next morning, Malik took his rightful place in his office on the top floor of Clayton Tower, with panoramic views of Manhattan. Dressed in a perfectly tailored Oswald Boateng suit, nothing about his current appearance suggested the waiter from the night before. The Thompson Investments merger proposal documents have arrived, Diana, his executive assistant, said, placing a folder on the mahogany desk. And your Aunt Adelia called. She wants to confirm your attendance at the Council of Elders meeting next weekend. Malik nodded, flipping through Bradley's company documents. The proposed merger between Thompson Investments and Blackstone Capital represented Bradley's biggest business opportunity yet, a billion-dollar deal that would cement his position among New York's financial elite. Diana, who on our team is on the approval committee for this merger? You are, in fact, she replied, consulting her tablet. As chairman of the Regulatory Commission's Business Ethics Subcommittee. A subtle smile formed on Malik's lips. Interesting. I also have the video you requested, Diana added hesitantly. From the engagement party. She slid a tablet across the table. On the screen, the Bradley incident, discreetly captured by Malik's security team, played in high definition. I assume this isn't just for the family scrapbook? Asked Diana, who had worked with Malik long enough to recognize when he was planning something. Let's just say Mr. Thompson will soon learn that actions have consequences, Malik replied, watching the recording. But first, I need to talk to my sister, without revealing my little experiment, of course. Meanwhile, in her penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park, Vanessa Clayton was having breakfast with Bradley, who was excitedly reporting his impressions of the party. The Harringtons loved you, she commented. Although, she hesitated. Although what, honey? Bradley looked up from his cell phone. That situation with the waiter was a little uncomfortable. Bradley waved away the concern. People in that position need to learn their place. Besides, he's probably already forgotten. Vanessa frowned slightly. Raised with the same values as Malik, something about the incident deeply bothered her. Still, she loved Bradley and had worked hard to be accepted in the social circles he frequented, a world far removed from the traditions her Aunt Adelia still maintained. Her phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. Malik's name flashed on the screen. My brother is finally returning my call, he commented, rising from the table. He missed our engagement, you know. Always busy saving the world, one sustainable venture at a time. While Vanessa talked to her brother in another room, Bradley checked his messages, smiling when he saw a notification from Blackstone Capital confirming the final merger meeting. A few more weeks and we'll make Wall Street history, Thompson, he muttered to himself, completely oblivious to the events beginning to unfold against him. Bradley Thompson stared incredulously at his lawyer across the conference table at Thompson Investments. The news he had just received seemed impossible. What do you mean Blackstone is reconsidering? The contracts were practically signed. His voice rose, making the executives present shift uncomfortably in their chairs. Apparently, explained Edward Harrison, chief counsel, concerns were raised about corporate cultural compatibility. They mentioned something about waiting for the Business Ethics Committee's review before proceeding. Bradley ran his hands through his perfectly trimmed hair. This doesn't make sense. I've been having dinner with the CEO of Blackstone every week for the past 3 months. Just yesterday, he was excited about the merger. There's more, Edward continued, clearly reluctant. The Goldman Fund also withdrew its participation in financing your Miami project, without detailed explanation. The room fell into a tense silence. 2 massive opportunities collapsing simultaneously was more than coincidence. Bradley felt an uneasy feeling forming in his stomach, something he rarely experienced: uncertainty. Meanwhile, across town, Malik Clayton chaired a business ethics committee meeting where the Thompson-Blackstone merger was being discussed. The numbers are impressive, another executive commented, but there are questions about labor practices at Thompson's Florida subsidiary. Malik nodded thoughtfully. Interesting. Continue the investigation and withhold approval until we have a complete picture. We can't rush decisions of this magnitude. His voice was calm, professional, no trace of the personal hostility he felt toward Bradley. Later that day, Bradley walked into Le Bernardin for a previously scheduled lunch with investors. To his surprise, he found Malik Clayton at his usual table, chatting amiably with the very men Bradley had expected to meet. "Thompson," called one of the investors, Come meet Malik Clayton. The man is a genius in sustainable investing. Bradley stepped closer, extending his hand automatically. Something about Malik's face seemed vaguely familiar, but he couldn't place the memory. Bradley Thompson. He introduced himself with his usual confident smile. I've heard a lot about the Clayton Empire. Impressive work in Africa. Malik shook her hand firmly. The pleasure is mine. I believe you're engaged to my sister, Vanessa. Bradley froze momentarily. You're the famous brother? Vanessa mentioned you were overseas and couldn't make it to the engagement. Plans change, Malik replied softly. Actually, I was closer than she realizes. Something in Malik's tone made Bradley feel uncomfortable, as if he were missing part of a private joke. Before he could respond, his phone vibrated. More disconcerting news. The bank had denied the credit extension he'd taken for granted. 2 hours later, Bradley stormed into Vanessa's apartment. Your brother is behind all this, he declared without preamble, pouring himself a whiskey straight from the bottle. What are you talking about? Vanessa stood up from the couch, alarm in her eyes. The merger with Blackstone, the Miami project, my line of credit, everything has been mysteriously falling apart since I met your precious brother today. Vanessa looked genuinely confused. Bradley, this doesn't make sense. Malik just returned to the country. How could he? He chairs the damn ethics committee that's blocking my merger. Coincidence? Bradley drained his glass in one gulp. And what's more, every investor I had lunch with today practically adored him. The legendary Malik Clayton, savior of the corporate world. Calm down, Vanessa urged, trying to process the information. There must be some misunderstanding. Malik wouldn't sabotage your business. He doesn't even know you well. Bradley laughed bitterly. Clearly, he's decided he doesn't approve of his future brother-in-law. Typical of families like yours, thinking old money gives them the right to judge upstarts like me. Families like mine, Vanessa repeated, her voice hardening. What exactly does that mean? Realizing his mistake, Bradley backed away. Sorry, I didn't mean... I'm just frustrated, that's all. He moved closer, taking her hands in his. Let's have dinner with him. Work this out. Show him we're a team. Vanessa nodded slowly, but a seed of doubt had been planted. In her 5 years of dating Bradley, she'd never seen him so out of control. The mention of families like yours echoed uncomfortably, reminding her of the traditions she'd increasingly distanced herself from in her life in New York. That night, as Bradley finally fell asleep after hours of anxiety, Vanessa texted her brother, "We need to talk. Just the two of us." The Ethiopian restaurant in Harlem was a world away from the refined establishments Vanessa frequented with Bradley. Low-carved wooden tables, intense aromas of berbere and niter kiba, and softly playing traditional music created an atmosphere that transported her to the family gatherings of her childhood. Malik was already seated when she arrived, chatting in fluent Amharic with the elderly owner. Seeing his sister, he stood up for an affectionate hug. "It's been a while, little lioness," he said, using her childhood nickname. Vanessa couldn't help but smile. 3 years isn't that long. 3 years, 2 weeks, and 4 days, he corrected, gesturing for her to sit down. But who's counting? The tension Vanessa carried momentarily eased at the comforting familiarity of her brother's presence. It had always been this way. Malik, 7 years her senior, had exerted a calming effect on her since childhood. Am I to assume this meeting is related to your fiancé? Malik asked after they had placed their orders. Bradley thinks you're deliberately sabotaging his business, Vanessa replied bluntly. And knowing you, I'm starting to wonder if he's right. Malik sipped his mint tea before answering. Interesting theory. Based on what? In the fact that you chair the committee that's blocking his merger with Blackstone, in the perfect timing that all your other businesses are starting to fall apart just as you return to New York. Correlation does not imply causation, Nessa. They teach that in first semester statistics. Don't mess with me, Malik, she warned. Bradley is important to me. If you have a problem with him, be direct. Malik's expression turned serious. Do you really know this man you plan to marry? We've been together for 5 years. And how many times have you seen him interact with people he considers beneath his social standing? The question caught Vanessa off guard. What are you talking about? Malik leaned forward. Our grandfather used to say that a man's true character is revealed in how he treats those who can do nothing for him. Remember? Of course I remember. What does that have to do with Bradley? For a moment, Malik seemed about to reveal something, but then reconsidered. Aunt Adelia is organizing the traditional blessing ceremony for her wedding in 2 weeks. Will Bradley be there? Yes, although he doesn't quite understand the importance of it, Vanessa admitted. These traditions mean more to the older generation. They mean more to our family, Nessa, to our legacy. Malik paused. You know that without the blessing of the elders, following the traditions our parents and grandparents brought with them, many in the community will not consider your marriage truly legitimate. Vanessa sighed. The world has changed, Malik. Not everything has to follow generations-old customs. Some principles are timeless, he replied, like evaluating a life partner's character before committing forever. The meal arrived. Injera with various colorful stews served on a traditional shared platter. Malik immediately recited a short prayer of gratitude in Igbo before beginning to eat, a habit Vanessa had long since abandoned. You didn't answer my question, she insisted, taking a piece of injera. Are you deliberately interfering in Bradley's business? I'm doing my job as chairman of the ethics committee, Malik replied calmly. If your fiancé's business dealings don't hold up to scrutiny, maybe the problem isn't with me. Something about Malik's measured response piqued Vanessa's suspicion. Her brother had always been protective, but also direct. This dance around the truth was unusual. There's something you're not telling me, she concluded. Malik studied his sister's face for a moment. Let's make a deal. I'll bring Bradley with me to the farm this weekend. A visit to the family property to get to know your future brother-in-law better. If I still have reservations after that, I promise to express them directly, to you and to him. The farm in upstate? Vanessa looked surprised. You rarely take anyone there. It's our family sanctuary, the place where our American and African roots meet. If I'm going to truly meet the man who plans to become part of our family, let it be on our land. Vanessa hesitated. Clayton Farm was almost sacred to her family. 300 preserved acres where her grandfather had established a space to keep Nigerian traditions alive while building a new life in the United States. It was also where her father was buried, following ancestral customs. Fine, he finally agreed, but promise to be fair, not to deliberately sabotage it. I promise to evaluate Bradley Thompson for exactly who he is, Malik replied, his eyes conveying an intensity that made Vanessa wonder exactly what her brother already knew about her fiancé. The Clayton farm stood out as a world apart, just 2 hours from Manhattan. Nestled in the lush hills of the Hudson Valley, the property blended traditional American architectural elements with distinct African influences. The main house, an imposing structure of wood and stone, was surrounded by meticulously landscaped gardens where African medicinal and food plants grew alongside Native American species. Bradley Thompson watched out the window of the Range Rover as Malik drove up the driveway lined with carved wood sculptures. Impressive, he commented, trying to sound genuinely interested. How long has your family owned this place? My grandfather bought the property in 1962, Malik replied. A time when it was unusual for a black man to own so much land in New York State. He faced considerable resistance. Vanessa, sitting in the back seat, nervously watched the interaction between the two men. Since lunch with Malik, she had noticed Bradley's growing obsession with his brother's influence, as if every professional obstacle were part of a personal conspiracy. There's Aunt Adelia, Vanessa pointed out as they approached the main house. Adelia Okonkwo waited on the porch, magnificent in her traditional blue and gold attire, an elaborate turban framing her weather-beaten but still stunningly beautiful face. At 75, her late father's sister was the undisputed matriarch of the Clayton family. My dears, she greeted, arms wide open as they got out of the car. Finally, the family is together again. Bradley stepped forward with his usual charm, extending his hand. Mrs. Okonkwo, it's a pleasure to finally formally meet you. Vanessa speaks highly of you. Adelia looked at the outstretched hand and, instead of shaking it, pulled Bradley into a warm hug that left him momentarily disconcerted. In our tradition, family doesn't shake hands, she explained. And you're about to become family, aren't you? The weekend had been meticulously planned as an immersion into the Clayton family traditions. For Bradley, accustomed to navigating corporate circles with ease, it was completely unfamiliar territory. The first surprise came during dinner, when it was announced that everyone should eat with their hands, following the tradition of many African cultures. Food connects directly to us, Adelia explained, seeing her hesitation. We feel its texture, its temperature, and we honor its journey into our bodies. Bradley adjusted himself awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable but determined to impress. Watching him, Malik maintained a neutral expression, though his eyes missed no detail. The real ordeal began the next morning. Bradley was awakened at dawn by Malik. "We have much work to do today," the host announced, handing him simple cotton clothes. In our family tradition, before receiving a blessing for a marriage, the intended husband works the land to demonstrate his ability to sustain and nourish. The next few hours were a test for the Wall Street executive, completely out of his element as he helped plant, harvest, and load produce on the organic farm that occupied part of the property. His tender hands soon developed blisters, his pale face reddening in the sun. "You're deliberately humiliating me," he muttered to Malik when they were momentarily alone among the rows of corn. Malik raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean? This is the same job I do every time I'm here. The same job my father did, and his father before that. I know exactly what's going on," Bradley insisted, wiping sweat from his forehead. "First my business, now this. You don't consider me worthy of your precious sister." "Interesting that you interpret honest work as humiliation," Malik observed calmly. "It says a lot about your worldview." That afternoon, as Bradley recovered on the porch, Adelia served traditional hibiscus tea while explaining the blessing ceremony that would take place the following week. "The community elders will meet to evaluate the union," he explained. "This is no mere formality, my son. It is a council that looks beyond appearances, seeking compatibility of spirits." "With all due respect, Mrs. Okonkwo," Bradley replied, trying to keep his impatience under control. "Vanessa and I love each other. We don't need the approval of a committee to validate that." A heavy silence followed the statement. Adelia studied Bradley for a long moment before responding. "Love is just the beginning, young man. A solid marriage is built on respect, shared values, and an understanding of each other's roots." She paused. "Do you even know Vanessa's roots?" Before Bradley could respond, a group of children approached the porch, bowing to Adelia before handing her small bouquets of wildflowers. She spoke to them in Igbo, laughing and patting their heads. "Who are they?" Bradley asked as they left. "Children of farm workers and families from the local community," Adelia replied. "They come 3 times a week for classes in African history, language, and traditions." "Like a school?" "Like an anchor," she corrected. "So that you never forget who you are, no matter how far you travel in this world." Across the garden, Vanessa watched the interaction with growing concern. She knew Bradley well enough to realize he was merely tolerating all of this, doing the bare minimum to gain approval. For the first time since their engagement, she wondered if she truly knew the man she planned to spend the rest of her life with. The large circular pavilion at the back of the Clayton property was decorated with colorful fabrics, traditional Igbo symbols, and elaborate arrangements of significant plants. Approximately 100 people gathered for the blessing ceremony: family, close friends, and respected members of the Nigerian American community. Bradley Thompson, dressed in the traditional indigo blue attire Adelia had insisted he wear, looked out of place and visibly uncomfortable. 3 days at the farm had tested his patience to the limit, but he persevered, keeping his eyes on the prize: Vanessa and, by extension, his connection to the influential Clayton family. "Remember," Adelia instructed as she adjusted her turban, "when the elders ask you questions, answer from the heart. They see beyond words." Bradley nodded automatically, checking his watch for the 3rd time in 5 minutes. His phone vibrated constantly with unread messages. The crisis in his business continued to deepen in his absence. The ceremony began with musicians playing traditional instruments as Vanessa was led to the center of the circle, stunning in her elaborate red and gold traditional attire. Bradley tried to reach her, but was gently directed to sit in front of the semicircle formed by 7 elders, elderly men and women whose positions indicated their role as judges of the proposed union. Malik sat discreetly among the elders, his status as head of the Clayton family granting him a position of honor. His eyes met Bradley's briefly, his expression unreadable. The oldest of the elders, a man of at least 90 years named Obi Nduka, stood up with the aid of a carved cane. "We are here to evaluate the union between Vanessa Clayton and Bradley Thompson," he announced in a surprisingly strong voice. "For a marriage to flourish, it must be planted in fertile soil of mutual respect, shared values, and honorable intentions." The ceremony continued with traditional chants and symbolic offerings. Then came the moment Bradley secretly dreaded, the elders' questioning. "Bradley Thompson," began an elderly woman named Amara, "what do you value above all things in this life?" Bradley had prepared himself for questions like this. "Success and family," he replied promptly. "Building something meaningful and lasting." Murmurs ran through the assembly. The answer was acceptable, if not particularly profound. "How do you define respect?" asked another elder. Bradley hesitated briefly. "Treat others as they deserve to be treated." A silence followed the answer. Obinduka leaned forward. "And who determines what each person deserves, young man?" Before Bradley could formulate a response, a disturbance at the pavilion's entrance drew everyone's attention. A middle-aged man in formal attire hurried down the central aisle. "Mr. Thompson, I'm sorry to interrupt," the man said, clearly agitated. "I'm James Wilkins from Blackstone Capital. We need to speak urgently." Bradley stood, relieved by the interruption. "Gentlemen, ladies, I apologize. A business emergency." Without waiting for permission, he followed Wilkins out of the pavilion. The murmurs among those present intensified, the breach of ceremony protocol seen as deeply disrespectful. Vanessa, mortified, looked between the exit where Bradley had disappeared and the clearly offended elders. Malik approached her. "This is unacceptable," he muttered. He knew the importance of this ceremony. "It must be really urgent," Vanessa defended, though her voice betrayed her own doubt. Outside the pavilion, the conversation between Bradley and Wilkins became heated. "What do you mean, a video leaked?" Bradley demanded. "Exactly," Wilkins replied, showing his tablet. "It's been circulating among major investors since this morning." On screen, Bradley watched in horror as he performed at the engagement event, publicly humiliating the waiter he now clearly recognized, Malik Clayton himself in disguise. That was, he stammered, turning pale. "He set me up. The bastard set me up the whole time." When Bradley burst back into the pavilion, the ceremony had formally adjourned. Most of the guests were scattered in small groups, chatting in low tones. "You!" Bradley pointed at Malik, advancing down the center aisle. "You planned all of this!" A shocked silence descended upon the assembly. Vanessa rushed to her groom's side. "Bradley, what's going on?" "Your brother!" he roared. "Your precious brother disguised himself as a waiter at our engagement to test me. And now he's using the video to destroy my reputation." Malik remained impassive in the face of the accusation. "I'm not destroying anything that you yourself haven't destroyed by your actions." Vanessa looked between the two men, confusion giving way to understanding. "You were the waiter? What Bradley—" Her voice trailed off as she remembered the incident. "Your fiancé showed exactly who he is when he believed he was speaking to someone without power," Malik replied calmly. "A man who humiliates public servants is not worthy of becoming part of our family." "You have no right to judge me," Bradley shouted, completely losing his composure. "Who do you think you are?" Obinduka tapped his cane on the floor, the sound reverberating through the silent pavilion. "He is a man who knows his roots and honors his ancestors," the elder said. "Something you, young man, clearly do not understand." "I don't need this," Bradley declared, tearing off the traditional garment. "Vanessa, let's go, now!" Vanessa remained motionless, silent tears streaming down her face. "Is that all you have to say?" she asked. "No explanation for how you treated that waiter? No regrets?" "It was a trap from the start. Your brother never gave me a chance." Bradley looked around, realizing he had completely lost control of the situation. "Don't tell me you're taking this act seriously?" Adelia Okonkwo approached, standing beside her niece. "The ceremony is ancient, but its purpose is timeless, to reveal truths that everyday life hides." Vanessa looked at Bradley as if seeing him for the first time. "You really don't understand, do you? You've never understood what this means to me, to my family." "What means more, Vanessa?" Bradley countered. "Archaic traditions or our life together in New York?" The question hung in the air, laden with implications. It wasn't just about the ceremony, but about fundamentally incompatible identities. "I think we need time," she finally replied, removing her engagement ring, "to reconsider a lot of things." 3 weeks after the blessing ceremony debacle, Bradley Thompson watched the city from his Manhattan apartment window. The scandal surrounding the video, which showed him humiliating what appeared to be a simple waiter, but whom the corporate world now knew to be Malik Clayton, one of the country's most respected businessmen, had caused incalculable damage to his reputation. The merger with Blackstone was officially off. Investors were pulling out of their projects. And Vanessa wasn't answering her calls. A knock on the door interrupted his dark thoughts. His assistant entered hesitantly. "Mr. Thompson, she's here." Bradley straightened immediately, expecting to see Vanessa. Instead, Adelia Okonkwo entered the room, as imposing in her elaborate turban as she had been at the plantation. "Mrs. Okonkwo," he greeted, surprised. "I didn't expect—" "Clearly," she replied, taking in the empty whiskey bottles and the disheveled appearance of the man who used to be the very picture of sophistication. "May I sit down?" Bradley gestured to the couch, uncomfortable under the matriarch's piercing gaze. "If you came to say Vanessa officially broke up with me, you could have sent an email," he said, trying to keep a light tone that failed miserably. "I came to offer you a path," Adelia replied, "if you have the courage to walk it. A way of redemption, of growth, of understanding." She paused. "Our tradition teaches that any mistake, no matter how grave, can be corrected if there is true repentance and a willingness to change." Bradley laughed bitterly. "Your nephew set a trap to discredit me and destroy my career, and now you want to offer me redemption?" Adelia remained unfazed. "Malik simply created an opportunity for you to show your true character. The actions were yours. The words were yours." The truth of that statement hit Bradley harder than he cared to admit. In the weeks of forced isolation, away from the social spotlight and corporate adulation, he'd had time to relive the incident over and over again. The look on Malik's face as he demanded he clean the floor. The look of disappointment in Vanessa's eyes. "What exactly are you proposing?" he asked finally. "In our tradition, when someone commits an offense against the community, reparation comes through service," Adelia explained. "I propose that you spend 8 weeks at Clayton Farm, working in community programs, learning our traditions, and understanding the roots of the family you wish to join." 8 weeks? Bradley looked incredulous. "I have a company to run." "Your company will survive," Adelia replied dryly. "Besides, from what I've heard, your business could benefit from a period of strategic seclusion while the dust settles." Bradley walked to the window, considering the proposal. Part of him wanted to refuse immediately, his wounded pride, his indignation at the manipulation he'd suffered. But a quieter voice, one he rarely heard, reminded him of what was at stake. Vanessa, the woman he loved, despite their cultural differences. "Vanessa agreed to this?" "Vanessa doesn't know about this conversation," Adelia admitted. "She needs time for her own journey of reflection. But I can tell there's still love in her heart, complicated by disappointment and doubt." Bradley sighed deeply. "What if I go through this penance ritual? Will I be guaranteed to get Vanessa back? Will Malik stop interfering in my business?" Adelia stood, adjusting her elaborate attire. "There are no guarantees in life, Mr. Thompson. Only opportunities for growth and choices that define who we are." She walked to the door before adding, "A car will be waiting in front of your building tomorrow at 7 a.m. if you decide to accept the invitation. The choice, as always, is yours." After she left, Bradley poured himself another drink, contemplating the offer. A cynical part of him suspected another trap, but something about Adelia's quiet dignity, the wisdom evident in her eyes, suggested a genuine opportunity. The next morning, to his assistant's surprise, Bradley Thompson was waiting on the sidewalk at 6:55 a.m., a single suitcase in hand, when the Clayton's driver arrived to pick him up. Golden afternoon light bathed the fields of Clayton Farm as Bradley, drenched in sweat and covered in dirt, finished harvesting the last row of sweet potatoes with a group of teenagers from the community program. 6 weeks had passed since his arrival, and the Wall Street executive was practically unrecognizable. His face, once pale from confinement in air-conditioned offices, now sported a healthy tan. His hands, once soft and well-groomed, were calloused from honest work. But the biggest change was in his eyes, the usual arrogance replaced by something calmer, more attentive. "Mr. B, we made it before sunset!" exclaimed Jamal, a 14-year-old boy participating in the farm's educational program. "Does this mean we won the competition against the corn team?" Bradley smiled, ruffling the boy's hair. "Absolutely. And that means you get to pick the movie for community movie night." The first few weeks on the farm had been brutally difficult. Adelia and the program leaders offered Bradley no special treatment. On the contrary, he was given the most basic and physically demanding tasks. Waking up before dawn, working in the fields for hours, participating in educational sessions on African history and traditions, and serving meals to workers and visitors. Initially, he had interpreted it all as calculated punishment. One particularly difficult night, after a full day of digging irrigation ditches, he had confronted Adelia. "This is all an elaborate humiliation, isn't it?" he accused. "To make the rich white man feel what it's like to be on the other side." Adelia had responded with surprising kindness. "No, son. It's an invitation to experience life without the artificial barriers we've constructed. No status, no privilege, just honest work and genuine human connection. Slowly, almost against his will, Bradley had begun to change. The demanding physical routine cleared his mind in ways that years of private gym memberships never had. The communal meals, where everyone shared the same food regardless of rank, reminded him of the simple dinners of his childhood before money and status. More impactful were the human connections. The children in the program didn't care about his net worth or Wall Street connections, only whether he could shoot a basketball or tell good stories around the campfire. The elders who taught him history and tradition treated him not with deference or disdain, but with the same expectation of respect and attention they extended to everyone else. Adelia watched Bradley walk with the teenagers back to the communal quarters, carrying harvest baskets and chatting animatedly. "He's changing," Malik commented, silently approaching to stand beside his aunt on the porch. "People usually do that when we give them space and opportunity," she replied. "Your sister has been calling every day to check on him, you know? She hasn't visited him yet." "Respect the process," Adelia explained. "Something you could learn too." Malik raised an eyebrow. "I still don't completely trust him. A leopard doesn't change its spots so easily." "We're not leopards. We're humans," Adelia corrected. "Capable of reflection, growth, transformation." She paused. "You've been watching from afar. Maybe it's time for an honest conversation." The next morning, Bradley was working alone in the barn when he noticed Malik at the entrance. The two men had exchanged only necessary words since Bradley's arrival at the farm. "Your pitchfork technique has improved," Malik commented casually, approaching. "The first time I saw you try, I thought you were going to hurt yourself." Bradley continued working. "I've learned a lot in the last few weeks." Clearly. Malik picked up another pitchfork, joining in the work. "Aunt Adelia says you've been excelling in community programs. The kids like you." "Children are better judges of character than most adults," Bradley replied. "They see through facades." The two worked in silence for a few minutes before Bradley finally addressed the elephant in the room. "Why disguise yourself?" he asked. "Why not just investigate me like a normal person would?" Malik considered the question. "Investigations reveal facts, not character. I needed to see how you treated people when you thought they couldn't do anything for you. And I failed that test spectacularly." "Yes," Malik agreed bluntly. "But few men would have the courage to face that failure as you are doing now." Bradley paused in his work, staring directly at Malik. "I'm not the man you saw that night. Or maybe I was. But that's not who I want to be." "What changed?" "Everything," Bradley replied simply. "Perspective. Priorities. Here, without all the trappings of success, I had to confront who I really am. And I didn't always like what I saw." Before Malik could respond, Jamal ran into the stable, agitated. "Mr. B, Mr. Clayton, we have an emergency. One of the buses carrying the children to the festival has broken down on the main road, and the opening ceremony starts in an hour." Bradley and Malik exchanged glances before following the boy. Outside, they discovered that a school bus carrying 30 children to the annual cultural festival had broken down less than a mile from the farm. "We can use the farm trucks," Bradley suggested immediately. "I'll drive one, you drive the other. We'll make 2 trips if necessary." "The first traditional dance is performed by the youngest," Malik explained as they ran to the vehicles. "If they don't make it in time, the whole meaning of the festival is compromised." Working together with surprising efficiency, Bradley and Malik organized emergency transportation. By the time they arrived at the festival site, they had only 10 minutes to spare. The cultural festival was the largest annual event sponsored by the Clayton Foundation, bringing together African communities from across the state to celebrate and preserve traditions. This year, it took on special significance with the presence of several African dignitaries, including a prominent Nigerian tribal chief. As he helped the children with their traditional costumes, Bradley noticed Vanessa on the other side of the pavilion, helping organize the dancers. Their eyes met briefly, their first contact in almost 2 months. She didn't smile, but nodded slightly, silently acknowledging his presence. During the festival, Bradley worked tirelessly behind the scenes, serving food, organizing performances, and assisting the elderly, all tasks he would have considered beneath his dignity months earlier. Now, he found genuine satisfaction in his service. The defining moment came during the community banquet. Bradley was serving drinks when a well-dressed executive accidentally spilled wine on his uniform. "Watch your step, waiter!" the man snapped arrogantly. This suit costs more than you earn in a month." A tense silence fell over the nearby guests, many of whom knew who Bradley really was. Malik watched intently, as did Vanessa and Adelia. Bradley studied the man for a moment, recognizing his former self in that arrogance. Then, with a calm dignity that surprised even himself, he smiled and offered a napkin. "Fortunately, a person's worth is not measured by the price of their clothes, sir. May I bring you another drink?" The man, disconcerted by the unexpected answer, accepted the napkin without further comment. Later that night, while Bradley was helping clean up after the festival, Vanessa approached him for the first time. "Aunt Adelia, tell me about your progress," she said, helping him stack chairs. "It seems you found your place here." "I found so much more than that," he replied, pausing his work. "I found clarity about who I was, who I want to be." He hesitated. "I miss you, Vanessa." She studied his face, as if searching for something. Was the man I fell in love with there all along? Or is it someone new I'm meeting now? "Both, perhaps," he answered honestly. "I've always had the capacity to be better, but I lost my way pursuing things that seemed important at the time. And now I understand what your family is trying to preserve here. It's not just ancient traditions, but timeless values. Community, respect, service." Bradley paused. "I don't expect you to simply forgive me or for us to go back to the way we were. I just want the chance to show that this change is real and lasting." Vanessa didn't respond immediately. Instead, she offered a hand. "Let's finish fixing this. There's work to be done." Together, they continued their task in a silence that, for the first time in months, seemed fraught not with tension, but with possibility. The next morning, Bradley found Malik and Adelia on the front porch, watching the sunrise. "The elders will meet again at the next full moon," Adelia announced, "to reconsider the blessing that was denied." "I'm not asking for guarantees," Bradley replied. "Just the opportunity to be judged by the man I am now, not by the man I was." Malik reached out, offering Bradley something, the small turquoise pendant he'd worn as a waiter that first night. "In our tradition, when someone completes a journey of transformation, they receive a symbol to mark the new beginning," he explained. "You have earned this." As the sun rose fully over the Clayton farm, Bradley realized that, regardless of the future of his relationship with Vanessa, he had found something invaluable in those weeks of work and reflection, the man he always should have been. The great hall of the Clayton farm community was ablaze with the light of hundreds of candles arranged in concentric circles. The full moon, visible through the partially open ceiling, bathed the space in silvery light. Elders in full ceremonial regalia occupied the inner circle, while family members and guests filled the outer ones. Bradley, now wearing his traditional indigo blue robe with genuine respect, waited at the entrance. His 8 weeks at the farm had officially ended the day before, but he had chosen to remain for the redesigned blessing ceremony. Adelia approached, adjusting her elaborate golden turban. "Are you nervous?" she asked, noticing how he repeatedly adjusted the turquoise pendant on his wrist. "Not as much as the first time," he answered honestly. "Regardless of the outcome, I know I did everything I could to deserve a fresh start." In the 2 weeks since the festival, his relationship with Vanessa had progressed cautiously. They hadn't resumed their engagement, but they shared meals, long walks through the fields, and honest conversations about values, expectations, and commitments. Bradley's company had also begun a slow recovery. The forced downturn had forced him to reevaluate his business practices, resulting in a new emphasis on ethical and sustainable investing. Ironically, areas in which Malik's Clayton Global Investments was a pioneer. "Remember," Adelia said as she led him into the hall, "the elders are not looking for perfection, but authenticity. Speak truths, not what you think they want to hear." The ceremony began as before, with traditional chants and symbolic offerings. Bradley noticed that, unlike the first time, he remained fully present, appreciating the meaning of each ritual element rather than impatiently enduring it. When Vanessa entered, radiant in red and gold, their eyes met through the circle of light. This time, there was genuine certainty in the smile they exchanged. Not the arrogant confidence of before, but calm acceptance of whatever the future held. Obianduka, the oldest of the elders, stood with the aid of his carved cane. His piercing gaze assessed Bradley for a long moment before speaking. "Bradley Thompson, you return to this circle transformed. We see it. We feel it." The elder paused. "But words are cheap. It is actions that reveal a man's heart." Bradley nodded respectfully. I agree, respected elder. I will not ask you to take my word for it, but to judge my actions these past few weeks. And what actions were those? Asked Elder Amara. Service, Bradley replied simply. I've learned that there is no work worthless when done with purpose and respect. Whether harvesting the fields or serving meals, every task has value when it connects people and sustains community. Malik, sitting among the elders as before, studied Bradley intently. The man we met at the first ceremony valued status above all else. What do you value now? Connection, Bradley replied without hesitation. With people, with tradition, with land. I understood that true wealth is not measured in bank accounts, but in meaningful relationships and shared purpose. The questions continued for over an hour, each answer demonstrating not only lessons learned, but also a genuine embrace of the Clayton family's values. When the last elder finished, Obi and Duca stood up again. Now, before we pass judgment, does anyone wish to speak about this man and his journey? To everyone's surprise, Jamal, the teenager who had worked in the fields with Bradley, stepped forward. I want to talk, the young man said, nervous but determined. When Mr. B arrived, I thought he wouldn't last a week. He seemed as out of place as a fish in the desert. Soft laughter rippled through the assembly. But he never gave up, even when it was difficult. And most importantly, he actually listened to us. Not like adults usually do, feigning interest, but like someone who wants to learn. Others followed, farm workers, community program participants, even the kitchen chef, all offering testimonies of small moments of genuine transformation they had witnessed. Finally, Vanessa stepped forward, placing herself in the center of the circle next to Bradley. Their hands met naturally. When I first met Bradley, I was struck by his confidence, ambition, and charm, she began. But now I see that those qualities were only skin deep. In these weeks, I have witnessed the emergence of a man with depth, humility, and genuine purpose. She looked directly at the elders. I ask you not to bless the man he was, but the man he chose to become. A murmur of approval ran through the assembly. Obin Duca consulted briefly with the other elders before delivering his verdict. Bradley Thompson, we have found you worthy. May your union with Vanessa Clayton be blessed with harmony, mutual respect, and shared purpose. The ensuing celebration lasted until dawn. Music, dancing, and an abundance of traditional food. Bradley naturally found himself helping to serve, now not out of penance, but out of genuine satisfaction in contributing. In a moment of pause, Malik approached, offering him a traditional drink. So, future brother-in-law, he said, his tone slightly teasing, I guess this means we'll have to work together eventually. Your finance skills combined with our experience in sustainable investing could create something interesting. Bradley smiled, accepting the drink. I'm thinking of a whole new approach. Investments that honor tradition while embracing responsible innovation. Something that builds bridges between different worlds like this farm does. Ambitious, Malik commented, genuinely intrigued. But you've always been ambitious. The difference is that now that ambition is anchored in something bigger than yourself. On the porch, watching the sun rise over the property, Bradley and Vanessa found a moment of stillness. The engagement ring, redesigned to incorporate traditional Igbo elements alongside the original diamond, glinted softly on her finger. Who would have thought, Vanessa mused, that the path to our future would lead through you waiting tables? Bradley laughed, hugging her. Sometimes we have to lose everything we think is important to find out what really matters. Across the garden, Adelia watched the couple with satisfaction. Beside her, Obin Duca nodded approvingly. The circle is complete, the elder commented. He who humbled himself became humble. He who did not value service learned to serve. And most importantly, Adelia added, I learned that true dignity doesn't come from status or possessions, but from how we treat each other when no one is watching. As a new day dawned over Clayton Farm, Bradley Thompson, former waiter, future husband, transformed man, understood that some journeys have no final destination, only continuous evolution. The most valuable lesson he had learned was not about African traditions or agricultural practices, but about the infinite potential for growth that exists within each person, if only they have the courage to face their own flaws and the commitment to transcend them.